Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guys, he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase. And yes, in fact, it does come with a fun Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more, or click the URL in the video description below. Lastly, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part podcast, you have something very, very rare. You have a right to repair bill as bipartisan support being reintroduced. I mean, politicians might actually do something to help us. Both sides of the political aisle coming together, it almost seems too good to be true. I'm a little suspicious, or as the youth might say, sus. Now, this comes to us thanks to Ronan Glahn over at thedrive.com. They say, quote, bill to make right to repair a federal law reintroduced with bipartisan support. The bill aims to put shade tree mechanics and independent repair shops on the same playing ground as dealerships. And there you can see a mechanic fixing a good old straight 4 or inline 4 engine, which I gotta say, my Honda Civic SI is a little boring in the straightaways, but a little turbocharged 4-banger, still fun in the corners. And truth be told, 80,000 miles, still solid as a rock. So there's some instances where good old 4 cylinders of glory is still appropriate and fun, like the Mazda Miata and Honda Civic SI. Not Mercedes, they learned that lesson the hard way. They're going to replace it with the good old V8, so it's back to their glorious days. But I partially digress. Diving into the substance of the article by Ronan, they say, quote, members of Congress from both sides of the aisle are backing a nationwide right to repair bill that would guarantee independent shops the same access to data and tools as dealerships. If it becomes law, the bill would make repairing a car cheaper and more convenient. Oh yeah, those fancy widgets and whiz-bang computers that you need to repair some of these cars, they cost more than my Honda Civic, which, with depreciation on the miles, I know it's not saying much. It's probably around $16,000, though I would argue priceless to me, because, how many Honda Civic Green SIs do you see out there? Not many, but nevertheless, it makes me smile when I see it and drive it. But yeah, those computers literally cost $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. And you need this special proprietary computer because it has the software from the manufacturer, so everything can talk to each other and easy to work with. As if they couldn't just put the diagnostics material into the giant, football-sized infotainment system they put in every car these days. Couldn't add a couple extra chips and pieces of software just tell you. But no, that'd be too convenient. But that's a huge barrier of why a lot of independent shops can't really diagnose a lot of the modern day cars when it comes to certain issues. Now, they say it is known as the Right to Equitable and Professional Auto Industry Repair Act, which is kind of cute. The acronym is in fact called REPAIR. So it is a long, cumbersome name like my own, but at least I understand there's a method to the madness. They say the proposal was written by the Automotive Services Association, the Society of Collision Repair Specialists, and the Alliance of Automotive Innovations. The three groups jointly outlined their ideas in a letter sent to Congress on February 18th, 2025, which is surprising considering AI, which represents dozens of car makers and suppliers, including Stellantis and General Motors, spent years challenging an expansion to right to repair legislation in Massachusetts. Although I'm more sorry for the people who have to live there. Nevertheless, a version of this bill was actually proposed in 2023, but stalled before reaching the House floor last October. It was reintroduced in February 25th by a bipartisan group of 16 representatives that includes Neil Dunn, Republican from Florida, and Marie Gluesenkamp. Again, in this case, I'm actually authentically not trying to be disrespectful. Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, Democrat from Washington. Right to repair laws already exist across the nation, but the Repair Act was written in a bid to enshrine the idea into a federal law. And the current political context, any bipartisan effort is worth saluting, which, I actually do give them some kudos. That's pretty rare. The last time I heard of a bipartisan support bill would be when Matt Gaetz teamed up with the AOC to make it illegal for the spouses of politicians to trade stocks, which is how Nancy Pelosi, while is paid, was it $190,000 per year, is worth hundreds of millions of dollars with her and her husband. Now, they say its goals include guaranteeing that owners, independent repair shops, and parts manufacturers have fair and equal access to diagnostic data and software. It also aims to ensure that access to repair-related data doesn't compromise a vehicle's cybersecurity and allow repair shops that aren't affiliated with the automaker to calibrate electronic features such as driving aids. While the bill may sound a little superfluous if you're running a 2003 Dodge Dakota as a daily driver, which you should. Those things are bulletproof and not a lot of things can go wrong. Unlike modern vehicles where there's so many bells and whistles, it seems like there's a recall every 18 minutes. But nevertheless, they say if you're running a 2003 Dodge Dakota as a daily driver, it addresses issues that are becoming increasingly common with cars that get more complex. The bill is still a long way before it goes up before the president's desk. It will be researched, discussed, and modified several times before it's voted on in the House of Representatives. If it manages to pass it that far this time, then it progresses to the Senate, where it goes through a similar process. If approved again, the two chambers will need to compare their versions to the bill and make tweaks if needed until everyone agrees on the wording. We have now discussed more political knowledge than I would say 99% of public schools. Yeah, we should get rid of the Department of Education. It's useless, bloated, and costs over $1 trillion to get worse test scores year after year. Yeah, I would venture to say if you ask most students, they have no idea how a bill becomes a law. Partially because I think they killed that cute little cartoon decades ago. I'm just a bill at Schoolhouse Rock. Nevertheless, they say, quote, right to repair isn't just about cars. It also includes electronic devices like laptops, as well as farm equipment and heavy machinery. Without right to repair legislation, manufacturers can prevent individuals and independent repair shops from accessing parts, services, and vehicle-related data, sometimes via software locks. Looking at you, John Deere. That can only be disabled by authorized dealers and service centers. While car makers argue that the right to repair compromises safety, critics from all over the political spectrum have accused them of worrying primarily about their own profits. Because, yeah, obviously, yeah, safety, yeah, I doubt that's even 1% of their actual concerns. They say gatekeeping, repair, and maintenance can end up costing owners money. On average, a driver spends 36% more on repairs when they take their car to a dealership than when they take it to an independent shop, according to the Right to Repair Act's website, which, yeah, it makes sense. I just bought, because I track my Honda, wear and tear a little bit more than usual. I just had to buy new rotors for front and rear for my Civic, and it was less than half when compared to the cost of the dealership quoted me. Again, I took into account the cost of labor at the dealership. I separated that line item. It was literally, I think it's actually 70% less. It was comical how cheap I got them for from, again, an authorized Honda dealership that just wasn't my dealership, funny enough, who had their own e-commerce platform as well, where you can buy parts, which, yeah, exactly. Now, continue, they say, quote, the site also points out motorists in rural areas living hours away from the nearest authorized repair center. When fixing a car becomes time-consuming, expensive, or both, drivers tend to put it off. The site notes that in 2021, an estimated 21.3% of drivers delayed repairs due to factors including cost and convenience, which, yeah, I've been there, done that. There's been, I'm not proud to say it, but there's been times where my car was a little bit, the rotors, this is the second pair of rotors I've had to buy. There's a time when there was not a lot of lesser braking capability than I was comfortable with when I, didn't have as much jingle in my pocket to get repaired at the dealership, or in that case, serviced. But yeah, one of the biggest issues, the reason why I hear when it comes to right to repair bill, you always hear the farmers. One of the biggest issues because they're usually, spoiler, in the middle of nowhere, or as we call it, God's country. There's not a lot of John Deere dealerships near them. And to move one of those monstrous, one of those large John Deere combines or tractors out, take it to the dealership, that's going to cost you, just in diesel fuel alone to drive it there on a flatbed or, whatever kind of truck you got, that's going to cost you a pretty penny. Then they do have services where you can pay to fly out a tech from Case New Holland is another famous manufacturer. That costs a lot of money because they're literally paying someone to fly across the US and they're plugging some little laptop dongle into their machine and they're telling you what's wrong, and then maybe they'll order the parts. It costs time, money, and again, with farms, you got to get that harvest done. So that's one of the reasons you hear about that the most, is that's one of the biggest areas in which the delays and the cost to them is exponentially greater, since, again, they have a lot bigger requirement to the output of the vehicle than the average consumer, where, again, we can always, I recommend it, you probably just walk instead of taking an Uber these days, but it's much easier to get alternative methodologies, to get to work as an individual versus, a work material or work vehicle like a tractor or a combine. So it's a really important bill. I'm skeptical to see, how far this will realistically get. Maybe we'll see. I can't help but think the odds are better now than with the previous administration. But yeah, I think it's a very important bill, especially with access to parts. That's something people really criticize Tesla, especially when they first kind of came to fame and really started gaining some realistic, mass market share. I mean, Rich Rebuild's one of the best YouTubers out there. He would actually salvage old direct Teslas, so you can actually just salvage the parts because Tesla would not sell him the parts when he was trying to repair his own vehicle. And so I think access to the parts is equally important as well. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm hoping it'll get passed. I'm hopelessly foolishly optimistic. I think the odds are better than before, historically speaking. But let me know. Do you think this bill will actually get passed? Will really make it through the House and the Senate? And I think Trump would sign off on it. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.